Hello again. We are going to follow with the agenda with a lot of variations. So we have video presentation, we have presential presentations, we have video presentation, we have text that we have to read from some speakers. So we will have a very varied approach to this roundtable. First of all, I want to introduce Anna Witscher, that probably is in the field of academics one of the person that more expert in the relationships between design and public policies. From the she came from the University of Cardiff, from the PDR, if I'm not wrong. That is a specific research center about design and public policies. No? So she will give us, I think, a kind of shot of European policies or how is the question in the European field in between these two relations. So we can begin with Anne, and then we will have the more technological connection with other speakers.
Great.
Please.
Well, I've got a presentation, so I don't know if that's going to be up on screen.
Yes.
Super. My name is Anna Witscher, and I'm Head of Design Policy at PDR, which is a designer research centre at Cardiff Metropolitan University. It might be easier if I sit over there so that I can control the slides.
Feel free to do what you want.
So, I'd like to share with you some lessons in developing, implementing and evaluating design policy across Europe. In the decade 2000 to 2009, only 2 countries in Europe had actually developed design policies, and they were Denmark and Finland. So the governments had done widespread consultation to engage citizens in developing design policies. So when I talk about design policies, I'm talking about government-led interventions to stimulate demand for design, but also to produce a quality supply of design expertise in a country. But from sort of 2010 onwards, in the, now previous decade, there was a real proliferation of governments recognizing the value of design for innovation and competitiveness. Around 10 European countries have actually adopted design policies, including Estonia, Denmark and Finland again, France, the Netherlands, even the European Commission itself, Iceland, Ireland, Latvia, Hungary, and more recently Malta, Slovenia and Sweden. And actually, just this year, Estonia has launched the next phase of its design policy, and also France has developed a new iteration of its design policy. So for me, this is really exciting because it's not that governments are developing one-off design policies, but actually they're developing design policies, implementing them, evaluating them to a certain extent, and then realizing that the impact that design has had on the innovation landscape has been quite profound. And so they're actually developing second iterations of these design policies. And I just want to share with you some examples, some of the actions within these action plans. And we did an analysis of a series of 9 of these action plans. So looking at the number of actions, looking at the content, who are the beneficiaries of these action plans, and what type of mechanisms governments adopt to support design in these countries. As you can see, these design policies and design action plans have varying numbers of actions. So, for example, the smallest number of actions was in Ireland, and that was 6 actions. I'll give you some examples of the Irish design policy later. I was quite involved in that process. And you can also see, for example, In Latvia, the Latvian government has actually developed a design policy with 50 actions focused specifically on design, which is a great number. Then you've got everything in between. I hope you can see that. And as I said, these actions focus on different beneficiaries across the design ecosystem. So whether it's stimulating demand for design in companies, or whether it's upskilling the design sector to meet the challenges of big public sector contracts, for example. So, as you might imagine, about a quarter of the actions within these design action plans focus specifically on increasing the demand for design in businesses. As you might imagine, these are mostly SMEs, so how startups, micro-enterprises, and SMEs can de-risk using design for the first time. And I'll talk later about the mechanisms that governments use to do this. So about 26% of the actions across those 9 action plans that I mentioned focus specifically on increasing the use of design in business. But intriguingly, they're also recognizing that perhaps the design sector itself needs to be upskilled. We're having a big debate in the UK at the moment as to whether design education is up to the demands of what the sector and what industry is looking for. So across these action plans, around 24% of the actions focus specifically on designers. So enabling them, for example, to matchmake with enterprises or through continual professional development. Actions also, as you might understand, as you might imagine, focus on education. So, for example, actually developing whole new curriculums in primary and secondary school, as well as new doctoral programs, for example. But what's really exciting is that in the early days, the design action plans really were mostly focusing on companies' use of design. But actually, more and more, these action plans are recognizing that design processes are relevant for transforming the public sector itself. So actually, how design can introduce more citizen-centered processes within public services, public administration, and public policy development. So about 18% of the actions within these design action plans focus on raising awareness and building capacity for design in a public sector context. They can be in national government as well as regional and municipal levels. And then a small number of actions focus on design support bodies. What I find quite intriguing is that only about 7% of actions actually focus on the general public. I find that quite unusual because, we talk time and time again about how design is not necessarily well recognized by the general public. People still, very much see design as styling, and yet emphasis is not being placed on enhancing design literacy among the general public. And then looking at the types of mechanisms that these governments employ as part of these design policies. Very often, as you can imagine, one of the main leverages that government has is financing. So about 25% of the actions focus on support and funding. These can be mentoring programs, they can be grant schemes, they can be loan schemes, tax credit schemes, all sorts of financial instruments for supporting companies and the public sector to use design. Also, promotion and awareness campaigns. So we've seen examples of the Year of Irish Design or Helsinki World Design Capital. So large-scale initiatives for raising awareness of design across multiple different stakeholder groups. A focus on training, education and research, policy governance, and then enhancing design supply. So I'll give you a couple of examples of these. I think it's really exciting that governments are realizing that design is a source of international competitiveness. So there's lots of programs to enhance design export and to take businesses and designers on international trade missions. Also, as I'm sure you're well aware, government has a whole raft of different innovation mechanisms that companies can access. And in the past, design often has been eligible, in part as part of these innovation support schemes, but they've often been hidden and not explicitly promoted. And because companies don't always understand what the value of design is, they haven't taken up these design costs within mainstream innovation programs. So governments have been introducing design-specific support schemes, so design voucher programs. And we did some work, for example, with Scottish Enterprise, who are the kind of innovation agency in Scotland. And they have developed these design vouchers. And in the last 5 years, 600 companies have accessed these design vouchers. And most recently, we did an evaluation of these design vouchers. Just to say, they're quite small, so that's £5,000. So it's, in the grand scheme of a design project, you know, when we first talked about these design vouchers, I was concerned that companies might think of design very much as low-hanging fruits, because realistically, for £5,000, the types of design projects you can do will be limited to concept development or user research or brand development or web development. And of course, those are a crucial part of design. But in a sense, it's kind of pitching design as a sort of quick win almost as part of an innovation process, rather than positioning design as a strategic investment and as a process of innovation. But what was really exciting is that from doing the evaluation of these by design vouchers in Scotland, we realised that the vouchers were a way to kind of open the door for companies that have never worked with a designer before. And actually, 80% of the companies that accessed these vouchers went on to work with the design agency again and invest much more. On average, they then went on to invest a further £26,000 on the next stage of their design projects, which is really exciting. What's also really exciting is that design is being used to simplify the application procedures for these funding mechanisms. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to apply for particularly European-funded innovation programs at a national level. The paperwork is crazy. It can be literally like 40, 50, 60 pages. And the innovation agencies, because very often it's through regional development funds from Europe, you know, the innovation agency has got to make sure they comply with European funding requirements, but also to provide a user-friendly service for companies. And very often that just doesn't come through. So now innovation agencies are actually applying design processes to making these innovation support mechanisms much more user-centered, which is a really kind of strategic approach to using design and improving access to financing for small companies. Then in terms of promotion and awareness, you get the usual raft of design award schemes, as I said, exhibitions, trade fairs and promotion mechanisms. But also, what's more exciting is you're seeing governments recognising that big promotional campaigns like the Year of Irish Design or Helsinki World Design Capital or Valencia, of course, are big strategic investments. So, for example, in Ireland, the government invested €5 million in the Year of Irish Design, and that was match funded to the same amount by industry sponsors to raise awareness of design among a whole range of different audiences across Ireland. So businesses, but also general public, schools, and public sector. And this year-long campaign involved hundreds of projects and programs to raise awareness of design. And they did an evaluation of the impact of the Year of Irish Design, and it actually exceeded all of the indicators which had been set at the outset. So at the beginning, they had a target for 1,500 new businesses, like design-led businesses, to be registered. And as a result of the evaluation, they had well over 2,000 new design-led businesses registered as a result of the Year of Irish Design. So these national promotion campaigns can be a very effective mechanism for putting a spotlight on design and creating that showcase, which then can be carried forward as part of that kind of gathering momentum. Then, in terms of education and research, there's lots of countries that are performing mapping exercises about what kind of design education is available in their countries, right from primary school through to secondary, tertiary, master's level and doctoral studies. And, for example, I might cite Estonia as a really good example. They decided they wanted design to be a formal part of the secondary school curriculum. And before their design policy, which was in 2012, this wasn't the case. So they went through a huge procedure to develop new design textbooks, to train teachers to teach design as problem solving, and implement a whole national level curriculum, which has been very successful. And other countries are now following suit in that regard, where they don't have design included in primary or secondary education. Yeah, I've got 5 minutes. And then in terms of the design sector itself, initiating a dialogue on the future of the labour market within design. You know, what does the labour market in design look like in 5 years' time? We know that very often the design sector is made up of very small businesses. You know, how can these businesses create consortia to apply for big public sector contracts? And then actions to conduct research on the value and impact of the design sector. More females in design roles. That's an example from the Irish design policy. They recognised that the design industry was very male-dominated, and they wanted to get more female designers. And then in terms of the public sector, advocating design's role to innovation policymakers. So design is not only part of separate design policies, but is integrated into innovation policy and a wide range of other policies like circular economy, environment, health even. Very often these design policies have grand visions, but to what extent are the actions within these design policies actually implemented, and you know, where have they been monitored and evaluated? So based on the lessons from these 9 design policies, I want to share some examples of sort of good practice. So what often happens is that these design policies identify steering committees of experts, and these organisations become champions of implementation. As part of developing design policies, governments will analyse their design ecosystems. So when an innovation policymaker develops an innovation policy, it's based on an analysis of the innovation ecosystem. And design policy should be based on the same thing, an analysis of the design ecosystem, which has various components. And the successful design policies are linked to quantifiable targets with specific implementation plans and delivery actors and funding mechanisms. So this is an example of a mapping exercise we did in Wales, mapping the design ecosystem for Wales. Who are the players? What are the programmes? What are the strengths and weaknesses of the different elements of the design ecosystem? And what tangible targets what tangible actions can we implement with Welsh Government? I think it's really important for design policies to actually practice what they preach and use design methods to develop these design policies, so to really involve the stakeholders in co-designing and collaboratively developing actions which really meet user needs. It's vital to get ministerial endorsement. Very often the ministers are looking for, you know, good news, success stories of impact in industry, and so they often like examples of, you know, these national promotion campaigns as a kind of good news story. Introducing big national awareness campaigns, and also, as I said, ensuring that the design policy is linked to wider policy domains and the wider innovation ecosystem. I think it's also crucial to prioritise a small number of high-impact actions which will definitely be implemented and evaluated, rather than having grand visions and sort of nebulous actions which never actually get implemented. So that's a kind of a roundup of some examples of good practice from our experiences of developing design policies with national and regional governments across Europe. So I look forward to sort of hearing from other speakers and seeing if you have any questions. So thank you.
We'll let the question for the end of the
Sure.
session. Now, I think we have a presentation by internet.
Yes.
Yes, from Päivi Takokallio. Päivi Takokallio is president of BEDA and founder and CEO of Takokallio Design. It's a design thinking and strategic design agency from the north of Finland. And Päivi's advisor to the board Ornamo Art and Design in Finland, chair of Design Committee of Lapland Chamber of Commerce, and fellow of the Royal Society of Arts in the UK.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, there in Valencia. Greetings from the very north of Europe, from Lapland of Finland, and to help you understand how far apart from each other we unfortunately are at the moment, I'll show you this map. The red line on top is the Arctic Circle, and the red dot on that line is where I'm currently sitting in my living room doing this homemade video. And if you follow the green line to the south, you end up in Valencia, 4,200 kilometers away from where I am. So this shows how big Europe is, and thankfully with the modern means of communication we can still have a dialogue, or at least hopefully a dialogue after my presentation. Now, next generation design policy for Europe, my topic today, and the reason I'm talking to you about design policy and next generation design policy is I'm representing BEDA. BEDA is the Bureau of Europe. Valencia. Now, next I'm representing BEDA. BEDA is the Bureau of European Design Associations. I'm currently the president of BEDA, and hence leading the design policy work BEDA does at the moment. BEDA is a 50-year-old organization. It was founded in 1969 with a few members at that time. Today, 50 years later, we are an organization of 50 members. Most members are either designer associations, professional design associations, or design promotion organizations, mostly on national level, in 25 countries altogether. So, and we are a European organization, not a European Union organization, so we have members outside the European Union as well. Now, I'm going to talk to you a bit about past, something about present, and at the end, a bit about the future as well. So basically, I will go back in time for roughly 10 years when, For the first time in BERDA's history, it started to create design policy for Europe on European level. That work took a few years, and then in 2013, the European Commission published its very first design action plan for Europe, the first design policy program in Europe ever, and I'm proud to say that BERDA at the time and BERDA's member organizations were very active in making this happen, supporting and helping the Commission with the background work. The action plan has been running since 2013, and as a consequence of the action plan, quite a large number of R&D projects related to design and design's impact in businesses have been happening, worth tens of millions of euros. So we are not talking about a very small program, but of course compared to other fields it might seem small, but from the design point of view it's been an extensive program, and a lot of value has been created through the projects after 2013. Yet, this said, some years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, what started in BERDA was a discussion on what would be the next phase, the next step in design policy work in Europe and by BERDA. When we started to think about and when we started to look around to see what Europe looks like, what is actual, what is happening in Europe, we very soon realized that a lot of changes have taken place since 2013. In many ways, you could say that the world has changed in the sense that if we could think about, within design, if we could think about limited challenges to which design professionals were looking for solutions, this time is in many ways not over, but it has been complemented with huge horizontal systemic challenges which also require solutions, and some of them more urgently than others. And of course, climate change is certainly one of those changes that have taken place, or which have become more actual, more discussed, and whose urgency has been realized only during the past few years. Digitalization has become a challenge, a global challenge, and from European perspective we are looking for ways to deal with and develop digital solutions and digitalization as a phenomenon to make sense with European solutions compared to other solutions in different parts of the world. And a third important topic which is now high on the agenda in Europe is skills. Of course, as a consequence of digitalization, partly we need a lot of reskilling in Europe, and values. Values, again, is an issue which is very important considering the changes that have taken place in the global political scene, on the European scene, etc. So all these changes are identified in our societies largely, but we also started to pay more attention to them than perhaps previously. And this meant that we started actually to talk about a next generation design policy, that the old one, fine, perfect, still relevant and valid in many ways, but not really covering all the huge challenges we are facing at the moment. So how did we start to work around that? Obviously, the first step was that we, in internal workshops, in BERDA members' workshops, we analyzed what we had been able to achieve during the first design action plan, the first European design policy, and what was missing, what should we start doing and tackling? One of the first things was we realized was a need for a change to the basic approach. If the first design action plan had also included projects or aspects where ambition was to improve the situation of design education, design communities, which of course meant that Europe was doing some good for designers and design communities, we realized that we need to take another approach. What can design do for Europe? Not what Europe can do for design, but what design can do for Europe. And this, of course, was one of the reasons why last December in Helsinki, during Finnish EU presidency, BEDA organized a first international design policy conference with a title, Successful Europe, How Can Design Serve? It was organized in collaboration with our Finnish member organization, Ornamo Art and Design Finland, and we invited 100 experts, half of them from the design field, half of them from other fields, since we realized and understood that we need an active dialogue with a lot of other stakeholders in the society as well. Our key 3 themes in the conference, as are in our policy work in general, were related to climate change, digitalization and values. So we have decided that those 3 topics are our core topics, those horizontal, systemic, multi-layered, complex challenges where we want to start finding solutions through design and through the policy work we are doing at the moment for Europe. Now, obviously, a bit about stakeholders. European Union is the most important framework for our work, and that is no surprise to anyone, I'm sure. What this means is that we try to create background material, data, and create papers, documentation, also in our dialogue for the Commission. But that's not enough. It's not enough to have a dialogue with the Commission. We need to have an active dialogue with a lot of other stakeholders as well. For example, EU, IPO, industrial organizations, etc. So we very much realize that if we want to do our work well, if we want to be able to develop a solid design policy for Europe, we need to do it in collaboration with a lot of stakeholders. And of course, this is one of the reasons why we are very happy for the invitation to BEDA to be present in Designscapes Policy Forum as well. The framework we currently work with, in practical terms, is the new Commission's work program, and especially, of course, the work program for 2020. What is interesting in the work program is that it has a large number of policy objectives, policy initiatives, themed under certain topics, of which definitely, in our understanding, the most important is the European Green Deal, which was published in mid-December by the then very new Commission. Other topics important and relevant for BEDA and BEDA's priorities is what is called Europe Fit for the Digital Age, related to digitalization and Europe's approach to digitalization. And one more is a new push for European democracy, reflecting the work we try to do in relation to values and European values as well. Now, one thing I would like to mention, one quote actually, is related to the new Commission. When the new Commission decided for the Green Deal in December, it was a big step in the climate change dialogue globally as well. And I want to quote the Commission's President Ursula von der Leyen, who spoke in the World Economic Forum in Davos in January, and let me quote. When she was speaking about the Green Deal, she said to the to the Davos audience, "Europe will be the first climate-neutral continent by 2050, and it will do whatever it takes to unlock the investment, the innovation, and the creativity that is needed." A very important statement, especially today in the context where we are having this dialogue in Designscape's Policy Forum. Mentioning creativity means that creativity has a position on the European agenda which is perhaps on a level which has not always been the case. So I would say that all design professionals, all design communities, both within BEDA and I'm sure in the audience in Valencia, realizes the importance of this speech Ursula von der Leyen made. Creativity is something which is very important in relation to the economy of Europe. Design, cultural and creative industries as such, as a field, as a huge field, is a growing one and has value from the economy point of view of Europe. But as important, at least as important in my mind, is the added value creative industries can bring to other industries. And in this, I would say that design plays a very special role. Design has always been about adding value to its client industries. So when this topic is now on the European agenda, it means that there's a great opportunity for designers and design profession and design as such to add value to success of Europe. Hence, the opportunity is better to be well used as well. And of course, it's fantastic that the European Commission has established, or DG GROW has established a working group with experts from different cultural and creative industries who will work till the end of this year, 2020, to create a position paper on the future of creative industries, design included, and that of course gives BEDA a great opportunity and a responsibility as well to bring its message on the tables, on the platforms where the creative industries is discussed, and obviously BEDA wants to do its share in this. Now, one of the last things I would like to say is, or talk about, is what is crucial to create the next generation design policy in Europe at the moment. I would say that one of the most crucial things and requirements is flexibility. The ability to change when the world around changes. And as we know from coronavirus, COVID-19, already during the past few months, these sudden, unexpected changes can happen whenever, and they can have long-term impacts, as we now already start to see that the current situation probably has long-term impacts already for the world economy and many other issues probably as well. Change can happen almost overnight, and a reaction to these changes is not enough anymore, in my opinion. I believe we need to learn to become more proactive. And of course, this is also true with the design and design communities. Proactive means, one thing it means is that if we want to have an impact, if design communities, designers want to have an impact, we need to be sitting around the same tables where decisions for our societies are made. And to make this happen, design professionals need new skills. We need to have leadership skills more than what was the case before, quite likely. Forecasts, that's another point of view from a proactive aspect. Forecasts are even more important than what they used to be because of the unexpected changes and also the global nature of the changes we might be facing and are already facing. We need abilities to create future scenarios, and we need more ability to start finding solutions to those future scenarios we create. Possible solutions, new solutions, possible solutions, creative solutions are what designers have always been trained to do, are now trained to do, and will be trained in the future even more. We need possible solutions for sudden global changes as much as we need possible solutions for those global systemic societal changes we are tackling, from digitalization to climate change to values. So if I want to leave with you something, I want to leave you with this understanding of the shift from reactive to proactive. And with these words, I want to thank you for listening to my talk from my home video studio, and hopefully we will have a chance for questions and answers after this. And in any case, I want to wish you great days today and tomorrow in Valencia. Thank you.
So now we have a short video, 2 minutes of video from the
hello.
from
Great.
president of the but it's a video? It's a video or it's a video? It's a video. So a very short video from the president of the World Design Organization.
Greetings from the WDO. As the president of the WDO, I take this opportunity to congratulate the team in Valencia for organizing the first Designscapes Policy Forum. It's indeed a great opportunity for cities and communities to come together to debate, discuss, and understand how sustainable design policies can be developed. I would also like to thank the organizers for inviting WDO to attend this forum, but unfortunately, due to the prevailing coronavirus situation, we are unable to travel at this time. I am confident that the Designscapes Forum will bring out a good deal of discussions. We would like to learn the outcome of this forum, and we would be happy to share its summary with our members at WDO. I would also keen to work with the city of Valencia and the other organizers of this event to come together for a mutually beneficial design event in the future. I wish this forum a grand success. Stay safe. Thank you.
And now we have a text from David Kusuma, also from the World Design Organization, and we have a writing text that will be read by Alicia. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Pau. Okay. Dear Designscapes Policy Forum organizers and participants. Sorry. It is with true regret that we are unable to attend the Designscapes Policy Forum this year due to the global uncertainty and precaution on the COVID-19 situation. However, we want to include this letter to share our outlook on design policy, as it remains one of WDO's most important initiatives to address in our objective to design for a better world. All good? Yeah. Thank you. Framework for a global design policy. Design policy can be a powerful tool for social, economic, and cultural change. It can serve as a guide to grow economic and industrial success, along with breaking down long-term social norms and cultural barriers, which limit progress on improvement in basic quality of life. Many nations are working on national design policies, and there are currently a number of significant documents which address the topic in countries and regions. Europe has a well-documented regional framework for design policy and case studies, which are mirrored and referenced in policy documents from other countries which have attempted to create their own versions. But there exists different levels of design and policy at the city level, regional level, and national level. The WDO has undertaken a detailed study to understand the policy landscape in different places in the world, and we feel there is a great opportunity and urgency to present a true global framework for design policy, looking to improve the quality of life for citizens of the world. Key issues for consideration. What form should a global design policy take? The objective is not to duplicate what efforts are being made at the national level, but to unify and focus on what provides the highest benefits so the impact of design's contribution to social change can be felt globally. In the global arena, design policy must transcend the simple business objectives of local economic progress and industry competitiveness normally found in national policies. Design and innovation-related economic growth is equally important in a global context, but we need to focus on global issues which are most important to the greatest number of people, regardless of national origins. Issues like global income inequality, gender balance, poverty, and discrimination, which focus on basic human dignity, rather than national-related interest. We are all in agreement that there is so much suffering in the world today, and there are great opportunities for design to make a difference. Climate change, infectious diseases, and global pandemics are what the world is currently experiencing. And we already see how global issues can create economic stagnation in corners of the world. It is imperative that we all together, we agree on and prioritize the many key global issues where design can make a significant impact. What are the primary values which the global community of design professionals want to promote? Connecting global design policy to a well-established world design agenda. WDO, as a global organization, is committed to the UN Sustainability Goals, and our interest is to tie global design policy to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals by design as outlined in the United Nations 2030 Development Agenda. Together with our member organizations from around the world, we have embraced the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a framework for action that has the potential to simultaneously offer positive social and environmental impact, as well as raising the visibility and value of design in the world. Any global policy presented by WDO will be connected to the WDO World Design Agenda, a plan of action that aims to inspire, mobilize, and activate our community to deliver design-led solutions that contribute to the achievement of the UN SDGs. The objective is to set ambitious goals in an open, transparent, and collaborative way so that we may be a strong global voice for change, united in our mission to design a better world. With this in mind, we are committed to advocate, promote, and share knowledge of design-driven innovation that address the following UN SDGs, identified by WDO members as particularly relevant to the design community. They are defined as follows. SDG 3, good health and well-being. SDG 4, quality education. SDG 6, clean water and sanitation. SDG 7, affordable and clean energy. SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. SDG 11, sustainable cities and communities. SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, and SDG 17, partnership for the goals, and I will read this one. Foster strong and inclusive public, private, and civil society partnerships that share knowledge and build on experiences and resourcing strategies to support the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals in all countries, in particular developing countries. We live in a world characterized by unprecedented population growth, decreasing natural resources, and rapid technological change. In this context, the World Design Organization is fully engaged to play a leadership role in addressing some of our planet's biggest economic, social, and environmental challenges from a design perspective. WDO is uniquely suited to guide and support a policy direction at the global level because of the expansive connections created by networking our diverse membership around the world. Along with our long-standing pillars of professional associations, promotional organizations, and educational institutions, the strength of our cities agenda, including the World Design Capital program and New Cities pillar, offers a platform for sharing ideas and stories around the world. In addition, our growing corporate membership and partner initiatives injects the promise of well-needed capital and provides an industrial perspective into the dialogue and solution opportunities. Government and policymakers. In absence of a singular national government, we must build strong connections with world political bodies and global foundations which promote similar urgencies and values. To begin, we aim to leverage our United Nations consultative status for greater access to the international community, help advance the international development agenda, and set our profession firmly and securely on a sustainable design path using the SDGs as our common language. We are also in process of reaching out to the World Trade Organization and the World Economic Forum to strengthen our commitment to the SDGs and explore more opportunities, supporting innovation and new thinking. The total number of enterprises in the design industry continues to increase worldwide, with growing interest and continued rapid expansion of design education and students. While the design industry is still primarily dominated by small to medium-sized firms, we must do a better job to connect SMEs with larger enterprises around the world to encourage innovation-related economic growth. And we must strongly support and encourage startups and incubators to experiment and bring new ideas, which can support design initiatives that focus also on non-market-driven problems with the global community. This is encouraging innovation in its purest form, driven from the ground up. We also have a great opportunity to bridge the design industry with many other industry associations around the world to create pooled resources that can partner and function beyond national boundaries. The need for better data and metrics. Finally, with regard to the design profession as an industry, currently there is a lack of statistical information available on design-related activities at the global level. Therefore, there is an urgent need for collection of detailed statistical data to provide a clearer picture on the current design landscape and on future trends. Statistical information such as number of students enrolled and graduating from universities around the world, the number and size of design firms, number of design employees by country, turnover, and projected growth. We also need to develop the means to monitor design's effect on social and economic improvements, through partnerships with the United Nations through partnerships with the United Nations HDI, Human Development Index. Data and digitalization will drive our digital future, and we must address immediately how to build an intelligent data strategy. Our course of action must be guided by factual data and not merely by emotion. Our newly introduced city pillar of memberships, with it we aim to work the cities around the globe to influence their policy-making efforts by sharing our global experience and knowledge gained over the years. It is WDO's intent to issue a formal global design policy document prior to our World Design General Assembly in 2021. The expectation is to provide a global framework which could be translated to regional adaptation and local implementation. Sincerely, World WO Executive Committee.
Well, now I think three very and diverse is finished, no? Sorry. There is another contribution more? Yes? Another video? Wait, put.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, Policy Forum invitation was a great pleasure. My name is Tuija Hirvikoski, and warm greetings from Finland, Helsinki, where I'm currently at Laurea University. My background to the topic Design for Sustainable Digital Transformation in European Cities is based on different type of experimental and research work here in Helsinki region, but also in various international forums. For example, I was one of the founding initiators of European Network of Living Labs and also former president of the association. Currently, I'm member of European Commission Open Science Policy Platform, and I have been assisting European Commission in science with and for society evaluations. Here in Helsinki region, we are specifically fond of regional smart specialization strategies, and in our regional council and regional coordinating committees, we have been initiating and implementing the strategy, sometimes also collaborating with the committee of the regions. I also want to thank my colleagues here in Finland, particularly Dr. Anne Äyväri and Dr. Teemu Santonen, and our project experts Kaisla Saastamoinen and Heidi Uitto, with whom we are together implementing currently co-creation orchestration project, which is funded by Finnish Ministry of Education and Culture and Laurea University of Applied Sciences. So I want to start by referring to design-enabled innovation in urban environments. And my approach is particularly from the point of view of complex challenges and the so-called wicked problems, and how to tackle them in cross-sectoral, cross-disciplinary and cross-border collaboration, or as we call it, multi-stakeholder innovation ecosystems. From the point of view of the Green Paper, I would like to emphasize, or my presentation is emphasizing particularly innovation policies benefiting from a wide range of different type of design domains and the cross-level dynamics of design. I will also emphasize that in complex environments, both individuals and organizations find value in both horizontal and vertical development. My presentation will provide you 3 empirical examples from European Union, national level and local levels. So, as I mentioned earlier, different design domains will be needed in cities and in other complex environments, because here we have different type of challenges, therefore also different type of design approaches are needed. As Peter Jones with this figure illustrates, for simple problems we use design 1.0, for complicated problems design 2.0, for complex problems design 3.0, and for wicked problems 4.0. Here we want to emphasize that it's important to know how designing with system stakeholders is taking place and how proactively design successful alliances. And my examples, one of them particularly, Declaration to Boost Sustainable Digital Transformation in Cities in European Union, is covering all these 4 design approaches. Similarly, the 6-city program from Finland is also nicely covering all types of problems and all design approaches. Whereas my third example, which is called City Drivers, it's about educating art and cultural background professionals as mediators to the city development, and that is focusing more or less to design 1.0 and design 2.0. I also want to introduce another framework which is called multi-stakeholder or cross-level dynamics, and it's introduced by Barbara Gray and Jill Purdy. Why do I want to bring these 3 levels, local level, national level and global level, to the policy discussion? The reason is simple, because actually in any of our cities where we have businesses, governmental bodies, civic society, NGOs, and naturally also research institutions and universities involved, the local city-based ecosystem, the place-based innovation ecosystems are extremely important. But in order to scale up our solutions and to tackle wicked problems, we need to integrate local level to the national level and to the global level. And that is what my examples have been doing. Particularly the declaration to boost sustainable digital transformation in cities in European Union. It's a nice example of how the initiator, who comes from the city of Eindhoven, our friend Wim van Kinderen, so as an individual he came up with this idea of designing joint declaration. And then little by little, different NGOs, different cities, and the European Commission have been supporting us. So I ask you to look at the figure also creatively replacing United Nations to European Union or Commission, so it can be global level, can be also considered as European level. Similarly, the 6-city program and City Driver of my examples, they are focusing on national and local levels. So let's move ahead. One more thing which is coming more and more crucial in the complex world is the so-called vertical development, which refers to advancement in personal thinking capacity and capabilities. I would claim that the design-enabled innovation in urban environments, it calls also individual level skills and mindsets. And my comment is in relation to the question of how to focus also into vertical development, not only on traditional horizontal development, adding more knowledge, skills and competencies, but rather looking at the ability to think in a more complex, systemic, strategic and interdependent way. It can be claimed that vertical development and skills related to vertical development might be the missing elements which could be included to the green paper to make it even more powerful. So, the 3 examples, the 6-city strategy is coming from Finland, and 3 of the cities are located in Helsinki Smart Region, which scores as the most innovative region in European Union. and the 3 other cities are located elsewhere in Finland. I would like to draw your attention to the figure on top of the slide, also illustrating the different phases of partnership formation, because as claimed earlier, cities in general are based on different type of multi-stakeholder ecosystems. And there we start by convening different stakeholders, then negotiating among the stakeholders, finally reaching the stage or phase of implementing the agreement, and rarely, but very importantly, we should focus on how to institutionalize collaboration and partnership. The problem with current short-term funding is that we mainly focus on the 3 first phases, and we don't have much resources and capabilities to institutionalize transformation. And then, of course, because collaboration in multi-stakeholder ecosystems, it's dynamic, so there is a continuous potential for repeating different phases of collaboration. And I would like to use the declaration to boost sustainable dialogue transformation in cities as an example where we managed in relatively short time frame to cover the 3 first phases. We are still in the negotiation and implementation phase, and institutionalization didn't yet start. Whereas the 6 city strategy in Finland is actually already reaching the 4th phase. And the City Drivers project, which is about educating people and promoting design-oriented city development, there the experimentation has just finalized, and we are planning the actual institutionalization phase. So, getting to the first example, which is really, as I mentioned several times already, it's the declaration, and it's jointly with Eurocities, Open and Agile Smart Cities, European Network of Living Labs, Finnish Presidency of European Council last autumn, European Commission, and the European Committee of the Regions. So it's really covering different type of initiators, enablers, and particularly the associations are deeply involved in local levels, in local cities, whereas European Union and Committee of the Regions are looking at the declaration more from the top-down perspective. Both are needed, and it was possible thanks to good collaboration and mutual understanding to create this process, which was, as I mentioned earlier, initiated by our colleague from the city of Eindhoven. So, it's multi-level governance process where we are co-creating with citizens, and the aim is to turn cities and communities into smart, sustainable places where people enjoy living and working. We aim towards cohesive digital Europe where no one will be left behind. Inclusion is very important in the current situation in Europe and globally. With the declaration, we are also encouraging both public and private stakeholders to invest to both design-oriented and technology-enhanced development. So those who have signed the declaration they agree on the following principles, which I have grouped here into two different categories. The red ones, design related, are more relevant from the point of view of the green paper, whereas the technology and data related principles are of course vital for other purposes. So the declaration is encouraging different stakeholders to join to financial, technical, legal, monitoring, education and capacity building measures where focus is on smart and sustainable places, respecting individuals' digital rights and citizen-driven innovation ecosystems. We also aim to create or help cities and communities to become global technological leaders, capable and aiming to scale up digital solutions so that at least 300 million Europeans can enjoy a better quality of life by 2025. So, because the slides will be available for you, I will just emphasize a couple of questions. Regarding to financial measurements, public procurement practices are extremely important because often our projects focus on innovation, actual innovation process, and we have quite few measures and tools to scale up the solutions. And when we are speaking about cities, cities can agree about how the public procurement practices can help to scale up the solutions. As mentioned earlier, there are also technical and legal measurements which you can read from this slide later. I would like to emphasize that also from the point of view of the green paper, it's extremely important that we keep in our minds policy recommendations and tangible improvements or proposals how to improve regulation and legal environment. And of course, monitoring and measuring is always the starting point. Without shared methodologies and measures to monitor the benefits, we don't know whether we are actually moving ahead or not. Here, with this slide, I will stop for a bit longer because I found it very interesting that the green paper is also emphasizing a lot education and capacity building. And what comes to this declaration, citizen-centric design and also enhancing skills of public authorities and businesses, as well as the civic society and the public, it's vital. And in this case, of course, the declaration is emphasizing skills in relation to digitalization, whereas the green paper is emphasizing the skills and knowledge and mindsets to understand, to benefit from and to develop design-oriented innovation processes. Anyway, similarities are here. Moreover, we need to focus on culture of having co-creative, participative and cross-sector approach to design and implement smart and sustainable local solutions. And with this declaration, the idea is that the more cities, by the way, the city of Valencia has signed the declaration as well, but this way we are boosting simultaneous processes in different parts of Europe. I'm running out of time, so I will just quickly mention the Finnish Six Cities strategy, which is a great example of how cities can agree how to use design methods in order to create better services and better innovations, and how to guarantee the scalability of the solutions, and how how to help the companies to benefit from the fact that cities together can create a procurement, pilot process and procurement measures to help creating a real market and opportunities for the companies. Of course, if it's citizen-centered, human-centered, it's always need-based, so that is what we don't need to emphasize that much, but still companies are struggling, particularly SMEs, with the fact that they come with nice solutions, but it's difficult to create the actual market. So my final example is called City Drivers, and I would strongly encourage you to take a look at the webpage, which you can see from the slide. If you are keen on helping your local professionals from the field of culture and art to become designers facilitating city development and help them to sell and help the companies and the cities to buy creative competencies. From behind this link you can find quite a lot of material which will be available free of charge, and also you might like to, based on our experience, you might like to design your own process. Dear friends in Valencia, my time is up, and I want to thank you for your attention, and I wish you a very warm and fruitful conference. I also want to thank once more my colleagues here in Laure, and particularly my colleagues who are so carefully taking care of the master students, and for example in this case Marika Järvinen, whose master's thesis was awarded by Finnish Service Alliance, and of course based on the open science policies, all this material is available for you also. With these words, have a very fruitful conference. Thank you.
Very interesting four contributions. As always, we don't have now too much time. But as Anna will be with us this afternoon and tomorrow, so we can share with her more information. But if someone has some burning questions for the VEDA president that is online, we suppose that it's online, no? Juan?
Yes.
I have one.
Can you hear?
I have a burning question. It's very burning. Sorry.
Okay,
I go to the...
Ivy, are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a question for you.
Hello, this is Francesco from Italy. After listening to all the speeches, and I don't know if you maybe could also hear what Tuija Ilvikoski said, I have the impression, and I am also involving Anna in this question, I have kind of an impression that we are all of us talking about the same things with partly different jargons. So I see an issue of improving our reciprocal first level understanding to realize that we are marching in parallel to probably the same direction for sure, and probably the same ambitions and goals. So I would like to hear from the two speakers that are online in this moment, if you have the same perception, and if so, what could be done as an extra task for the next years of policies and programs to facilitate the coming closer of these different hubs of knowledge towards a common understanding and a common vision of the future.
May I start?
Yes, I was paying attention to the same issue, silently listening to all the other presentations in this slot. And what I would like to say definitely is that since it really seems that we are sharing similar ambitions and similar goals and working around the same challenges but from different angles, I would say that the critical thing is sharing knowledge, trying to create ways of sharing the knowledge. And I would, in a way, I would disagree with what was just said about sharing. Well, sharing is important, but trying to reach a common understanding or a common approach, I don't really think that this is as important as sharing the knowledge. Because what I would rather say that what is important, in fact, is to have different approaches and to have different understanding. I think it would be an ordered world in the end if we all would agree and find a consensus on how we do design policy or what impact design can have. But sharing information and sharing experience is extremely important. And in fact, I believe we haven't been very effective on that by today. So trying to improve there would be absolutely important. Thank you.
Well, only just that I think design has always suffered from jargon, unfortunately. And if we can demystify design and make it more accessible, then I think I think, as you say, we are all marching down the same route. And if we're all expressing ourselves differently, then that's probably our fault. And it's no wonder that design perhaps isn't recognised in government or by companies if we can't be clear amongst ourselves. So yeah, it's a perennial problem of design, I'd say.
Something more? Otherwise, we need.
Actually something that it is very relevant because it's beyond sharing. It looks at goes beyond sharing, and it looks at the whole infrastructure that supports design and creativity. Referring to the second presentation by, I'm sorry I can't pronounce the name in Finnish, but she was mentioning Ursula von der Leyen declaration, and she was talking about creativity. Even closer, yes. It looks to me that maybe we should think of or propose creativity as a sort of next level of the rights that we should consider people should have in the EU, in the development of the EU. There is in the EU we say that people have the right to a good health, and therefore we generate the healthcare system. We say that people have the right to education, and therefore we have generating a solid education system in Europe. We should probably look at the right of people to understand and develop their own attitude to solve complex problems. The vertical capability we were talking about, the third speaker, again, I can't pronounce the name, I'm shy. She was talking about this vertical capability. We should probably look at these as a right, but also a competitive advantage of Europe, because for the first time we are talking about this. and also think of which ecosystem could support that kind of capability. Which ecosystem can support European citizens, not just the design agencies, but European citizens in their own all forms of associations, business or spontaneous association, to support them in exercising their own problem-solving capability and to solve or address, because solving is impossible, but addressing complex networked and multi-actor, multi-stakeholders problems. It was not a question, it was a comment just to throw the stone and see what happens.
I'm very sorry we have no time for more, because design is for change and transform the social, but it's also for feelings. So we need design for feelings, and now we are going to experience a special design event. So Joan will give us some practical information from now. Thank you very much, everyone that is online. We finished the